He's Kevin O'Connell, third year as the Vikings head coach and former backup NFL quarterback. What did you keep from your days as a backup quarterback?
What did I keep?
Yeah. Jersey,
Um,
you know.
some tough memories of anytime it was windy or rainy and I couldn't throw the football. But no, I've got everything. My wife would probably tell you that I keep too much stuff. I got jerseys. I got a pair of LaDainian Tomlinson's cleats from when my locker was next to him at his my last year with the Jets.
Wait, did you ask him for those or did you take those?
Can't recall. I might have just put them. Let's not go there this morning. Actually, no, I did. I did ask him.
He might be he might be one of the most underrated players of all time.
Totally agree.
I mean, his stats are crazy. I went over those 2 days ago. I was just looking and I go, gosh, he's not meant. When we talk great running backs of all time, he's one of those we got to come back to and go, oh, yeah, you're right. LT was great.
No, there's no doubt. And how he did it, too. I mean, there were some games he was 30-plus carries. There was other games he had 10-plus catches. I mean, super, super impactful.
You wouldn't have got your chance if Brady didn't get hurt that year?
It was, it was actually, when it happened, that was back kind of, before some of the rules that we have now with the, where you have to clearly define who the third quarterback is. So, there was a moment in that when Tom went down where Matt Castle and I weren't sure who was going in the game. And then Matt went out there and we were, if I recall correctly, there was a moment early there where we were backed up and he threw Randy Moss a big completion from standing in the shadows of his own goalpost, and the rest was history from there. He had an unbelievable year. That was a really interesting year because you go to New England, you think you're going to be watching the greatest quarterback of all time, go to work every week, and then something catastrophic like that happens. And then just to be there side by side through that with Matt, and Matt and I became really close, and watch him go through it. And he was so prepared for the moment, had been there for a pretty good chunk of years, kind of just learning and growing and developing. And then watch him go out and execute every week. And shoot, we won. If I recall right, I think we won 11 games and didn't make the playoffs. Yeah. It was kind of a one of one thing.
Do you do the nobody believes us type speech?
Well, it was, to me, at the beginning of the year, Dan, it was easy to say, to give that speech because that would have been accurate at the time. But I did have a feeling about this team, even going back into the offseason, new additions arrive, and you're kind of just seeing the team come together. And it seemed like every few days, I remember vividly a conversation I had with Harrison Smith, second or third day of training camp. And I just kind of walked up to him and we were talking and kind of assessing, it was during special teams. And I said, Harry, I think we'd be pretty good. And he's like, I think so too. And we kind of just kept on having good days. And my whole focus was just, it really wasn't about, motivating from a standpoint of, hey, nobody's talking about us or the win projections or anything like that. I didn't get into all that. It was just trying to get these guys to truly see if we can maximize every day. And it can be a cliche if you're not authentically believing it, that's the most important thing for this team this year. But I truly did feel between our, having a new quarterback and just, so many new faces on the defense and Flo kind of bringing that group together every single day. We had to maximize the time we had. And if we didn't, I didn't necessarily think we would reach our potential or, as early as we needed to have the kind of impact to get the confidence going, to start really believing. And we were able to rip off 5 in a row to start the season. And I tell our team this sometimes because I want them to remember it, especially the totality of our roster. But we won all 3 preseason games, Dan. I'd never won a preseason game before. So that was, I was hoping that wouldn't be the marquee moment of the year for us. But outside of losing 2 games in 5 days, by 2 to Detroit, and then going out, playing Sean and the Rams on the road on a short week. This team hasn't lost outside in the other 15 total opportunities. So proud of what we are, but means absolutely nothing. Got a heck of a challenge this week going to Seattle. Mike McDonald's got that's a tough watch on tape for an opposing team, because he's doing some really good things on offense, defense, and special teams.
Kevin O'Connell, who I think is going to win the Coach of the Year. Does that matter to you?
I'm lucky I don't have a vote, because there's a lot of really good coaches in our league, man.
Okay, who would you vote for Coach of the Year? If you can vote for yourself.
I can't envision a scenario like that. But if I can't vote for myself, I would probably say, I think Dan Campbell in our division, coaching against him, that team is always really well prepared, tough. They've truly taken on the persona of their head coach, which I think is, what means the most in this position, having done it now for 3 years. I think Mike Tomlin would be. There's nobody I respect more than Mike Tomlin and what he has consistently done his whole career. And I just love anytime I get a chance to be around him. I always take something from it, and just love him. But I would say probably one of those two guys. Can't sleep on Dan Quinn either. I know that's been a heck of a year for them as well.
Take me back to when you were offensive coordinator with the Rams. So, like Cooper Kupp's year. How crazy was that? And if you're calling plays, it seems like it had to be pretty easy if you're calling plays with Matthew Stafford playing as well and Cooper Kupp having the Triple Crown year.
Well, I think what people don't give Cooper enough credit for is the position he plays in that offense. Everyone remembers the third down catches and Matthew hitting them, on a huge play against the Niners to kind of break a game open when we had to have it, or the Tampa Bay fourth down throw down the middle in the playoffs, or 2-minute throw, I should say. But what they don't see is when he's such an integral part of the run game, and the physicality and the toll that takes, and the jobs he's willing to do, the football intelligence. So it was, watching him, I used to say there should be a fourth column that year he won the Triple Crown, pancake blocks and, amount of times he had to block a defensive end or a linebacker. And if there was that, I think people would recognize that year even more than what they did in the moment. And just watching him and Matthew Stafford was one of the kind of highlights of my career, honestly, Dan, because, in the mornings, these two guys are meeting as if they're almost coaches, and really talking about the nuances of things and I remember I would just sometimes get a conversation started or be present for one that they were having, and just kind of sit back and recognize how one that situation was, because of where both those guys were at their careers, but also just the football intelligence of two human beings that can play the game at a high level. But some of the things they talked about were so beyond football 501. It was, sometimes I would sit there and just hope they didn't call on me to answer a question.
What's your role with Sam Darnold?
I think my role with him is just I try to not be so heavily involved, because I think Josh McCown and Grant Udinski in that room, we've got a really good kind of support system directly for him in that room. What I try to really be is really three things: is the play caller, giving him as much play intent of what I'm thinking so I can eliminate any gray. I think one of the big things I've always thought a quarterback needs to know is that I'm not going to be standing or sitting in the room on Monday morning holding the clicker and say, hey, why didn't you do this? Hey, this guy's open. Why didn't you throw that? Like, what I try to say is give clear, concise, hey, this is what we're trying to get done. If that doesn't happen, if I give you a bad play, like, here's what I want you to do with it. Here's where, your outlet or your check downs are going to be. And let's live to fight another down. Let's not you don't need to be Superman for us here. Although I do think he's made some Superman-esque throws this year. with the talent he has and his ability to throw it. And that's what I'm, most trying to do on a one-on-one level. And then there's the element of how we're going to manage the game together, because I do think the benefit of being the play caller and the head coach is a lot of times, I can kind of help the management overall of when we're going to be ultra aggressive, when we're going to be, kind of in a mode of, hey, our defense is playing great. I'm going to give you this play call, but let's make sure we ensure 3 points, or let's make sure that no matter what, we end this possession or end this down with possession of the football, because if the way our defense is playing, if we don't do things to lose the game right now, we got a great chance to win it. And there's just a lot of times in the game where that can get away from you if you don't have that direct line of communication with the quarterback. So I know those are probably the two things. And then just, overall, just how we put it all together, just making sure that he's an extension of me out there. And I feel really good about it. Sam's done a phenomenal job, Dan. He really has.
I'll leave you with this. If every current NFL head coach took part in a passing contest.
Ooh. I know there'd be probably 32 participants, but I don't know if we would classify all 32 as passers of the football.
Now, Harbaugh, thinks that he could win this.
No doubt. He's probably got cleats on as we speak.
In bed.
And he probably, I know for a fact, I've seen him. He still throws it probably as well as anybody, but I wouldn't sleep on Cliff there in Washington. I know, he would qualify as a coordinator currently, but I know he thinks
he's not eligible. Kev, he's not eligible.
He's not eligible. Then I'm putting myself in there. You got Zach Taylor.
Sean Payton, can he still throw it?
I don't know. Probably, but and don't sleep on the McVay, LaFleur. Kyle's a former receiver, but all those guys, they all think they can throw it. They
Andy Reid won the punt, pass, and kick contest when he was 13 years of age.
It all makes sense now.
Of course. Good luck with the game against Seattle. Great to talk to you, and congrats.
Yeah, I always appreciate you, Dan. Really do. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, bud. That's Kevin O'Connell, who I think right now would be the leading candidate for Coach of the Year. They got Seattle coming up. Then they host the Packers. Then they're at the Lions. Yikes.